bear this in mind. When you get that blob of dubbing, just extrude it out into a lengthwise direction. And that does a number of things. First of all, it makes the fibers twist together easily, but secondly, you make sure there's no ugly bumps or, messed up material in there. Next thing is very, very loosely attach that to the thread base. Don't apply any compression at this point of time with this particular kind of material. Just spread it out nice and even. See, it's natural fiber. It compresses very, very easy. Requires very little compression to actually cause it to surround that thread base. So what you've got is a perfect distribution of material from top to bottom. If you don't have that, you're not going to produce a good dub body. If you've got like diminished volume of the material, you've got big lumps or bumps or whatever, it's not going to happen. Okay, now remember what I said to you, the reasoning why we kept a little ways back from where we're initially going to start that body. And it's for this simple reason. You're generally going to end up with some bare thread at that point. But what you're going to do is reverse the thread back to the position where the body's going to start. And it should be the position where the material starts to attach around the shank of the hook. Now let me explain another little trick to you. Depending on how you compress the material, it has a relevance to the effect of the body of the fly. In other words, if I wind this body as is right now, I'm going to have a fairly bulky flyaway effect body. But if I want to tighten that up and make a tight body, I'll show you a really quick way to do it. Just grab the dubbing at the bottom end here like this. Don't have to touch it anyway here, just twist it. See that? Tightens that up. As tight as you want it to get. I don't particularly want that effect in this fly, so I'm just going to back that off. Alright, now we're going to wind the body. And each time that I do that, so I kind of bring my finger back and I kind of tap that material back. And I'm watching all the time as I'm moving forward the profile I'm actually building up in the body of the fly. But ultimately what I'm looking for is that the last turn I make, there is no material left on the thread. I have none to drag off, and we're clean, ready to accept a hackle. And we incorporate some synthetic material. Again, same thing. Don't take the thread to the extremities of the bend of the hook unless you're going to incorporate a tail or a ribbon medium. Let's use some of this claret. Now this is a little springy because it comprises of synthetic by a higher percentage than natural fiber. But the same process, just gradually extrude that material out into a lengthwise direction. Practice makes perfect, and dubbing is absolutely one of those things that is a requirement of practice. I mean, there's no question of a doubt about that. But if you watch how I do this, I very gently just lay the material to the thread. Also, I'm applying a degree of tension to this thread with this hand, because that makes a difference. You try to do it for slack threads, it's not going to work too easy. If you keep the thread under tension, this material slides up and down the thread base easy. See that? Dead simple. Just gradually surround the material to your thread base. Now let me show you another little trick. If you pinch the tip end of this material real tight like that, and then start to wrap the thread, so you initially start to catch the dubbing material, and from that point onwards twist it at the bottom end. See how it twists itself up all the way from top to bottom? You don't have to do this process all the way down. But the one thing you must remember at all times for the majority of material that you use for dubbing is this. You have to maintain a constant pressure of your finger or your thumb to that thread. You can't go on and off, on and off, on and off. It's got to be consistently either controlled on the finger or the thumb. In other words, every time I rotate it, I'm never releasing either of those fingers totally from that thread base. And of course, once you've achieved the amount of twist or definition that you want for the body definition of the fly, that's fine. Okay. And then we're going to, again, proceed forward with our wrap and watch again how I build up the definition of shape to my body. It's kind of like that carrot shape, and then we end up again with absolutely clean bare thread ready for the hackle. And if we rib the fly, then of course we do that there and then. Alrighty, let's move on. Now I'm going to show a real neat trick that I used many years ago. There's a number of what I would call a little bit more advanced techniques of dubbing that I use. you know, which use techniques with spinning whirls and all sorts of stuff. But I'd just like to show you this one because it's very, very useful for wet fly and soft hackle bodies. First of all, wrap your thread base along the shank of the hook, nice and even as usual. Right, then we're going to prep the material that we're going to use. Now we can do a number of different things there, but to all intents and purposes, I'm just going to show you the basic formula of what we're going to do. Okay, pick up your thread. We're going to prep our material ready for insertion into our little thread split here. And we're going to rotate our bobbin till our thread splits, or shall we say flattens, which will enable us then, you know, with the point of our dubbing needle there to get in there and separate the thread. So we've got about a 50-50 split. I'm going to pick up the dubbing material and set it into the thread like that. Close that down and watch very carefully what I'm going to do. I'm just going to rotate the bobbin back like this, come under some degree of tension, and just put my thumb on the thread like that, and if you watch as I moved it forward, it spiraled all the dubbing up into the twist. And what that does, it gives you a lot of flyaway effect. In other words, if you compress the dubbing with your fingers, you don't tend to get that much of a flyaway effect. And for really buzzy bodies, if that's the way to explain it, one, two, like this, see, we get exactly that desired effect. A lot of buzzy flyaway effect.